Hello and welcome back to Tay Radio Marin. I'm your host, Avani, and may our guests introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is, you gotta love the longest name in the world, Maureen Joy de Nieva-Marsh, but I go by the nickname Mo. And so today you can call me Mo. I am a school board member for San Rafael City Schools, representing Trustee Area 3. There are 12 schools in San Rafael City Schools, and there's 2 school districts, an elementary school district and a high school district. And each trustee has a different area. So even though we are part of a 5-person governance team, I think it's also important to highlight where I live in my neighborhood. So I represent Davidson Middle School, Sun Valley Elementary School, Laurel Dell Elementary, as well as the Early Learning Center, which is formerly known as the Short Elementary School. But that doesn't mean that we don't take care of and support the rest of the schools in the school district. But if you're like, Mo, where do you live? I'll be like, look, I am walking my dog, Trigger, in the neighborhood because I live right across the street from Laurel Dell Elementary School. That is the long answer, but I'm happy to be here and happy to be a guest with you all today.
That's great. Yeah. Quick introduction. I'm Sammy. I'm a junior at Redwood High School, and I am very happy to be doing this podcast with you today, Mo.
And my name is Levi, and I'm also an intern here at TAYFam Marin, and I go to San Rafael High School. And I'm also really excited to be on this podcast with you now.
What grade are you?
I'm a junior.
And what grade are you?
I'm a senior.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I'm also a senior at SR.
SR? Oh, I love it.
So on today's show, we will be talking about building change in Marin. And to talk about this topic, we have you to talk about your work in your community. But before we get into all of that, I'd like to ask everyone like a quick icebreaker question. What is your guys' favorite breakfast food, or like something to help wake you up in the morning, or like something like that, you know?
Okay. I mean, I can start off. I'm a very specific meal. So in the morning, I like to have coffee with milk, no sugar. I'm trying to cut off my sugar. And I'm a savory person. So I prefer savory breakfast over sweet. So it's like 2 hash browns, an avocado with boiled eggs and sriracha and chili oil onions or like crunchy onions. And it's just, it's the best meal ever. And it just makes me feel so good for the rest of the day.
Good thing this is being recorded because I want to go back and recreate that recipe.
So good.
Well, I guess since I, made that comment, I guess I can go next. For me, so I am Filipino American. My parents immigrated from the Philippines, and there is a traditional breakfast that I love so dearly. It was created like more so in the 70s or 80s, but the Tagalog word for egg is itlog. Right. Mm-hmm. And so there are these Filipino breakfasts, which is the same formula: garlic fried rice, vinegar with tomato slices, and then a type of protein, right? And the egg, so itlog. But you can have the egg usually as a fried egg, sunny side up, etc. The thing is that this Filipino breakfast has that formula, but the protein rotates and has a nickname. So isda means fish in Tagalog. So a fish version of this breakfast would be called isulog, or like if it's tocino, which is a sweetened pork sausage, then that would be a sweetened pork meat. It would be called a tosilog. So you see like this addition of like the protein nickname and the meat. So my favorite is a tosilog. And what's great is that it brings me comfort. It reminds me, Lola means Tagalog, in Tagalog, grandmother, very similar to the Spanish word abuela, right? Mm. And for me, because I'm missing her, I think this is like her 4 years since she's passed. Mm. When I want to be close to my loved ones, I will recreate this breakfast because it might not bring back my grandmother, but it provides me the same warmth and comfort and routine. And if you've ever tried it, and I'm very happy to like bring you guys breakfast, etc. I'm working on my cooking game, but I think it's really key. Like for the longest time, I've tried to erase who I was as a Filipina because I wasn't comfortable. But I realized that food is a great reminder of culture and who you are. And if you don't know who you are, where you came from, you can't move forward. So I know it's a little deep, but your question, it matters, and for the longest time, I hid that even in my breakfast food.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Levi, what's yours?
I'd say my favorite breakfast food is probably, I start off the day with coffee. I can't go near that.
But is it like black? Like my husband, he always gets black coffee like my soul. I'm like, oh, how poignant.
I mean, I really like cappuccinos, but when I'm at home, I like to just have like regular coffee, like black coffee with a little bit of brown sugar. Really, yeah. That's, I think, how I start off my day. And then I like to make eggs scrambled with longanisa, which is
Girl,
yeah.
yes.
It's pork. It's like pork sausage. It's, I don't know. I like to scramble it with egg and like heat up some tortillas. And like that's like, I think, one of my favorite breakfasts with
Valid.
with avocado and queso fresco, so fresh cheese. So good.
Filipinos are known more historically as the Latinos of Asia because we are like the largest Catholic country. We were conquered by Spain, the whole thing. That's why my last name's De Nieva and my Spanish is better than my Tagalog. But when you said longanisa, we too have longanisa. And so a longanisa is the exact same sausage plus the itlog, long silog.
Oh.
So very happy to share breakfast with you and we can have a long silog since you like longanisa.
Well, this conversation is making me hungry, low-key, guys. I think, okay, I usually just eat eggs, right? But I think like something new I've been trying is like Thai tea pancakes. I'm just saying that because I had that today.
Whoa, did you make that by scratch?
No.
Oh.
I went to Tutu Lounge downtown. Like, I did not make it. but
Support your local business.
It's so delicious, guys. I recommend that you try it. So I'm going to ask you the first few questions. The first one is, what got you kind of like working in the nonprofit sector?
So what really got me working in the nonprofit sector, or what they say professionally is like third sector work, I like to call it more heart sector work, right? Because, you know what type of money you're going to be making and it's going to be long hours, but it's an investment in community and a mission. And usually if the stars align, it aligns with your own mission and values for yourself person. So for me, what got me into the nonprofit sector was I was a student at Dominican University. I did my undergrad in political science, double minored in pre-law and music. I am not a lawyer. I just play one on TV. But I did go back for my master's in business at Dominican as well. But the nonprofit sector work was because when I was at Dominican, I had an opportunity to interview for an internship at the Youth Leadership Institute. And YLI is also the home and the backbone for the Marin County Youth Commission, which I know some of you, my hosts today, are commissioners as well. So I'm a YLIer. I'm a Y alumni. Very proud. And that's how it got that fire in nonprofits. YLI is a nonprofit, but it specialized in uplifting young voices, youth voices. And I was specifically part of a youth coalition focused on 18 to 24-year-olds. And we were working on the social host ordinance. And what's wonderful about policy change, and this is my bread and butter, and this actually ties back to my current commitment of public service as a school board trustee. If a policy is about the health, safety, and welfare of young people, how come young people are not writing the legislation, doing the research, doing the advocacy, helping with the implementation? And if a policy is on the books and it needs to be adjusted, why aren't those same young people who are the constituents or the ones who are being affected by this policy change also being part of that work? It comes back to the backbone of like, what do healthy youth and adult partnerships look like? What does it look like when youth are tokenized and they're just there for the picture at City Hall, but they never really worked on the policy? That stemmed from my work at the Youth Leadership Institute. And my first job out of college happened to be at YLI as well. And that social host ordinance that I worked on really drove the next 10 years of my nonprofit career. And I made sure that wherever I worked next, it aligned with my mission and values. I drove drunk. I drove underage in this Marin community. I had a fake ID. I hosted underage drinking parties. I definitely should have died. Now imagine sharing that testimonial when you're like 19, 20 years old in front of Marin County Board of Supervisors saying, yes, these are things that I did, but I believe in the social host ordinance that holds youth and adults accountable for hosting underage drinking parties because there is no mechanism to make sure that people get the help that they need in case something goes wrong, in case there's a car accident, in case a young person dies. And what was beautiful is that even though I started my career in nonprofits, it shifted after 10 years to government. So imagine 10 years in nonprofits doing this work, working in YLI Marin, YLI San Mateo, working on the social host ordinance as a young person and then as a staffer, and then coming back 10 years later at the County of Marin. Now I shifted to government, and the same young people from Marin County Youth Commission are coming back because the policy doesn't make sense anymore. And they want to add restorative justice and party buses as well as rentals under the language. That's a full circle moment. And I know this was a really long answer, but that's why I feel it's important to elevate organizations like Tay Youth Radio, like Marin County Youth Commission, like YLI, because if there are no organizations that give a space for young people to advocate, do policy change, or all of these other spaces where they can elevate something that means something important to them, I'm living proof of that. I wouldn't be here.
It's very true.
Wow.
And so that's why I was very honored to be your guest today, because I get it. I bet you that there are times where you're like, I am being judged for the way I look, the way I speak. I tell people I live in Marin by choice, because even though I've been here and this feels like my home, even today in 2025, I still feel I have to code switch or for survival to change who I am, how I pronounce my name, and how I show up in spaces, just so people can be comfortable enough with me. This is not usually how I speak, but I'm just white enough for people to listen to me and understand what I'm saying. And so it gets tiring. But that's why I said earlier, and I know this was in the breakfast part, I really suppressed who I was because I just wanted to fit in and belong and be seen. And it was really staggering to know that on my Dominican campus, I felt that safety and that diversity and that inclusivity. But when I stepped off campus to do an internship in Marin or have a part-time job at Bath and Body Works at Northgate Mall,
It's dead now.
it's dead now. It was dead then 20 years ago. But I was like, why am I here? Why am I here? But now I can't imagine any other place to call home other than Marin. But I say by choice because in order to be here, especially as a woman of color, trying to do community change work, regardless of your age, nothing against the men or those that identify as men. We're working like 3 to 4 times harder.
Yeah.
I have 2 college degrees and I'm still unemployed. I lost my job in June, and that's a lot of vulnerability to share.
Yeah.
And every day I still show up at the school board because I do care and believe in education. But it's been so hard mentally and emotionally to believe in myself. I'm so easy to support everybody else, the 3 of you, your counterparts. To be a school board member is such an honor because I get it. It's hard to be a student and to juggle, especially if you're a first-gen student, especially if your parents don't speak English as their first language. My parents are Filipino, but English was not their first language. And they didn't know how to navigate the U.S. education system after my mom joined the Army. So who had to do that? Me.
Yeah.
And I'm second gen. Can you imagine? I think about those students who come here unaccompanied, trying to make their way. So yeah, sorry, this got a little deep. But all of that to say is, for the longest time, my identity revolved around my job, my nonprofit status job, my government job. But the last 6 months that I've been without a job in this job market and I've been interviewing, I spend my time thinking, what is my purpose? And right now, what brings me a lot of joy, sincerely, is being in spaces like this with the three of you. But it gives me hope, because if I didn't have programs like this, I wouldn't know how to build resiliency and strength in times of pivot. There's always going to be loss in life and grief. There's always going to be job loss. But I just never expected it to be this hard. But I look like I'm always together and that I'm happy. But I'm not. And I think it's really important to support programs like Marin 9 to 25, Find Your Way Marin, the 988 number, being peers to each other. I think about Huckleberry Youth Teen Clinic and their programs. I'm not just saying this to say it. Imagine working in this field of mental health and substance use prevention, and your job, when I was at the county for 10 years, was to do that work. Advocate and share resources to our most underserved, especially young people. But what I've been really struggling with on my own is my own mental health and my own suicide ideation for the last 5 years. And nobody really gets that, because I'm on the go. I'm in community. I go to your church. I play softball. I'm all of these things. But smiling depression is very real. And I mentioned really wholeheartedly about the whole Filipino thing because my mom and my dad were retired nurses. And when I told them I had a problem, they said, buck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you have no problems. We do not take medication. We do not go to therapy. We do not talk to anybody. So imagine unpacking that generational trauma, and then I'm having a better, but your job is to advocate for others to seek help. That also requires a lot of burnout. So I dealt with caregiver burnout. I cared and I loved hard. And even though I'm without work right now, I am taking care of myself. And I share this in vulnerability because it's important to note that everybody is going through a time, but it's so important with resources and ambassadors like this show, like each of you, simply not to just hand out a resource card, but to just check in on your people. 2-3 weeks ago was the Women of Industry event hosted by the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce. And I was one of the panelists. And we had 3 amazing women talking about their leadership journeys in Marin. And this actually cycles back to the nonprofit. And I actually disclosed in front of 200 people what I was going through. I haven't actually harmed myself, but the ideation is real. I brought my husband here today to be my support system because I wanted to share this in this space, because when I had my school board meeting earlier this week, we talked about how it's so important to have mental health funding and support with behavioral health at the County Marin and Marin County Office of Education. And they talked about how they got their funding back. So in my board report, I shared what I had shared at the Chamber of Commerce event. And I shared that's why I lead in community and I show up, but I'm struggling. And I think it's really important to normalize that and talk about it. but also to know how to check in on your people and to know what the resources are. Didn't mean to take it to a turn, but
No.
your
Perfect.
breakfast question got me going,
Yeah.
and the nonprofit question got me going, because I don't want to tell young people college is the answer. I want to tell young people that there are a lot of options, and it's important to surround yourself with people that are supporters and endorsers of you and speak highly of you when you're not even in the room. Because those people are the ones that saved my life. And unfortunately, this is my third round in treatment in the last 5 years, but I don't find it as unfortunate. I find it more of, I never had a time to take care of myself. I took care of everybody else. To be honest, I kind of steamrolled into that care because my role of being Filipino, I leaned into that stereotype of a culture of care at the expense of your own health. And I can't live someone else's dream. I became a political science major because my mom wanted me to become a lawyer. I chose my degrees based on my mother's dream because she wanted to be a lawyer, but she couldn't say no to her mom and encouraged her to become a nurse instead. So what I tell young people when I work with them, and even my own peers, and even myself right now, is that it's not worth living out someone else's dream. And it's okay to start over. I feel actually very lost, but also very weirdly accomplished. And it's a weird space to be in.
Yeah. That was so beyond powerful. Like there's so many points that I feel like I've connected to. And I just wanted to say, like, you are such a powerful person. Like, your presence is, I was just so like mesmerized by this story that you told us. And like, I also would like to say, like, coming from an Asian household too, as well. I'm second generation. My parents came from China. My mom is very traditional. She had to learn the whole education system all by herself. And it was definitely a very hard and difficult process for her because it is not an easy process to learn. It took her many, many years to learn it. And I think that the fact that you kind of just brought that up and brought up the struggles of just, in a way, taking care of yourself and experiencing life without someone there to like guide you is definitely very difficult, and it definitely takes like a mental toll on you. Like, I've experienced it. I am the older sibling. I don't have anyone to guide me. My parents are foreign. They're not from this culture, and so I had to figure a lot of things out by myself, and that was definitely really hard on me. So the things that you said just really resonate with me, and I'm sure they resonate with the viewers as well. And I just really wanted to just emphasize, like, that was just the best story I've ever heard. I was just so encapsulated by your story, and I almost got teary-eyed too.
The fact that I'm not crying right now is just like a miracle.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your words of support, but also, like, look at our age difference, right? If I can impart to my younger self that you're going to be okay, if I had known that at your age, I probably wouldn't have made those decisions. I use drugs and alcohol and made poor decisions, not because I'm a bad person. I just wanted to fit in. And peer pressure is so real. Even positive peer pressure. You know, someone encouraged me to take AP calculus as a freshman. Seriously got a C. That's like an Asian F. And then I took it again, thinking that I would pass my AP test. And I got a D. It's amazing what young people have to struggle with. And I don't even know what the two of you have to deal with either. But I think it's important to share that if you don't say it out loud or create a space of support, even now, you're going to end up, I don't want to say end up like me, but you're going to end up in a space where you're like, wow, I'm going to unpack a lot. But if we can create spaces of safety, and I know we can't guarantee emotional and psychological safety, but that's why I think about on our high school campuses, affinity groups and clubs, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Latino Student Union or the Asian Student Union. It's not just spaces and places where you just eat good food and hang out with your friends. No, it's a space where I know I want to be safe, but let's also talk about sometimes the biggest non-collaborators or people who cut you down are also folks from our own community. There's some weird fierceness about, it's cool, Mo, that you're doing this, but you're not going to be the first. And I don't want to say that in some weird mean girl fashion, but that was also hard to reconcile when I was navigating nonprofits and even government spaces. Or even I was president of a Rotary Club and I navigated that too. And I was like, what is going on here? We're a community service organization. Shouldn't we all kumbaya, hold hands, all tides rise boats, that saying, right? But apparently not. But I want to create space for the two of you as well. I know that you guys have a set of questions, etc. But I want to say thank you for providing that space. To be honest, I've been really struggling the last 2 to 3 weeks. Really struggling.
I think there's definitely this very emotional, very unspoken conversation about how us BIPOC women have to navigate the world, especially at such a young age, and especially when our parents who may be foreign, there's really a feeling of you have to assimilate with our white peers. But it's also beautiful to see that we can be empowered by ourselves,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I was gonna mention I appreciate that you talked about being other people's support systems and feeling as though you have to have that have to be there for that person, and even almost forgetting about yourself in that way. I remember when Mr. Dominguez had asked me to speak for the school board, and that's the first time I met you. I was having a really hard time that day. I was sure I wasn't ready for the speech I was going to give. And you came up to me and you hugged me and you asked if I had eaten breakfast that day. And I think that really motivated me to want to get up there because, I thought, these people care about me, not just these people, but this community, not just the students in the school, but also, even people that I think are higher than me, they care. And I think it's so beautiful that you care. And even now, if it took you some time, and I think for everyone, it takes time to get to know you and yourself and how to take care of yourself. I'm glad that you cared then and that you care now, even about others. And now you're putting yourself first. And I think that's beautiful and really inspiring.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you're my boss. Both of you as Sandra Fell students. But also you're my boss because I have the honor of being your district assembly delegate, which means I represent all 17 school districts to the California School Board Association. And every year we set the public policy and educational priorities for that organization, AKA what we decide to advocate as policy change in Sacramento. I get to be one of those almost 250 delegates, and that's an honor. But to be honest, you don't really see people like me representing Marin.
Yeah.
And I know I just used that phrase just white enough. I hyphenated my last name. My first name's Maureen Joy. Mm-hmm. If I didn't hyphenate my last name, you'd walk in and I'd be like, hi, my name is Maureen Marsh. you'd be expecting like this 75-year-old Irish Catholic woman, because that's usually the age set for someone named Maureen. But that's why I took back my name, knowing who you are. I always never corrected anyone about the way it was spelled or the way it was pronounced. And you've seen some of these school board meetings. They get up to me and they're like, Trustee Mo, can I just call you Trustee Mo? I'm like, yeah, sure. You can do that. But you did say something that I want to highlight. I said that you guys are my bosses. It's true. Like, you had a powerful speech that day, and you were selected and chosen because there was a message that you were going to share on behalf of your student community to all of us as adults. That's powerful. Just because there was school board members and Principal Dominguez, we were captivated by you. And the reason why I asked you about breakfast is because I'm very Filipino. That is my default. But I could see that you were nervous, but you had it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We didn't even know each other. Right? That's that community of care, of checking in. You know, when they see that meme or a saying, you know what I'm talking about. Kindness. You don't know who's having a bad day. Smile. No, a smile is very simple. You don't even have to say a word. But I didn't know how me just asking if you ate breakfast actually helped you finish that speech so beautifully. I'm touched because I was just me being me.
No, and I love that you were being you. Because I mean, if you weren't, then, you know, maybe I would have been a little shyer. Maybe I would have stuttered. But, you know, knowing that there was like another woman of color beside me, and like knowing that, you know, there's so many other like people who are representing the schools that, you know, are just like me, you know, BIPOC people. There's people out there in Marin, and it's like, I'm not just going to talk to people who are just going to listen to my speech and say, okay, that's nice. Like another like high schooler, you know, but that like there was people that cared, you know, and I really appreciate that you were being you, you know, but it really did change. It really did change my whole mood.
I think it's important to just show like even these small acts of solidarity, because to be honest, you guys probably also agree, like it feels really alone in this, like being who we are in Marin. It feels really, you just feel alienated almost every single day. But I also agree, just like having those small moments with people of my own community or just other BIPOC women, it's very comforting.
Oh, it's super comforting. And I know it sounds so weird because I'm aging myself. I'm an elder millennial. I'm 40. So I collect my friends kind of like Pokemon. Okay, I know. But when I find that there is a Filipino in Marin, in the North Bay, Sonoma, that's fine too. I'll travel to Sonoma. That's fine. I get super excited and I just want to be your friend or want to hang out, because when I talk to other folks, especially in Marin, that are Filipino, and I don't mean just like even if you're half, you're Filipino. If you're a quarter, you're Filipino. There's also a complexity about, like, you know, if my husband and I are able to have children, it's like, oh, you have someone who's half white, half Filipino. I'm like, no, my child will be Caucasian, Irish, whatever. And they're both. And I'm 100% Filipino, but I was born in America. But yet I still felt like I needed to hide that. People felt more comfortable knowing that I was from Hawaii than me being Filipino back in the 90s. So when I introduced myself, I would say, oh, I'm originally from Hawaii, but I'm Filipino. They don't catch the Filipino. They catch the Hawaiian, and they're comfortable with that. And that was my survival mechanism. when I was in elementary school, because my last name was de Nieva, and really Filipinos weren't like an identity related in like school forms, etc. I was put in ESL, English Second Language classes for Spanish. I was like, okay, but not in a bad sense, just more of like, wow, we made an assumption, right? Being multilingual is so beautiful. I wish my parents felt that they didn't have to dilute that in our household. It became an English-only household, and it wasn't until I was in the second grade that they finally felt more comfortable speaking in other languages in front of me. But I can at least say that I understand Tagalog. I understand actually 2 other dialects from the Philippines. But my father spoke 5 languages: English, Spanish, Arabic, Tagalog, and Ilocano. Why do we hide that? Why does it always have to be something we can't be proud of? My Tagalog's not great. Mi español es más o menos, pero más practicar para el día. It's really, it's okay. But, if I practice every day, it'll be great. But I wish I could speak Tagalog.
This is a very valuable conversation because I think we're all bilingual. We all know multiple languages. Have you guys also felt like you had to hide, your other language or your other very integral part of yourself? What are your guys' experiences?
I mean, I don't know if you saw my face when you said you transitioned into like an only English household, because that's how my household worked for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, she obviously, and it's just kind of like a sick idea that we have to shape ourselves into like, and I hate to like put like white people under the bus, but like into this like white Caucasian box.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, for me, for the longest time, my mom wanted me to fit in. So I speak Cantonese.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I got that. My sister didn't get that because she was born a little later. But throughout that time, I kind of lost it because my parents only spoke English to me. And at school, I only spoke English. And I didn't want my Chinese lunches anymore. I only wanted the sandwiches with the white bread and like the peanut butter and jelly and, all that like typical American food.
Yep.
My food was strangely smelled, stuff like that. But in a way, I lost my identity and I lost like a lot of my cultural background because I wanted to fit in with a bunch of white people at school.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even right now, I'm trying to like speak more Cantonese. I'm trying to really like, embrace my culture and learn more about it and to really celebrate Chinese New Year to the fullest, not just for the red envelopes.
I also am part Chinese, so I also have red envelopes, so I'm all about it.
Yeah. But I think that I really relate to that part because a lot of people of color, and when they have children, they want their children to fit into the quota or like the quote unquote like I don't know, the box that is American. And I think that when I get older, I find that I want to go back to when I was younger and to stick with that. I wish my mom forced me to like learn Mandarin or to like to keep speaking Cantonese. I wish my mom forced me to keep that culture. And, I kind of like regret a little bit that I let that go just to fit in. But, I'm more mature now. So that's definitely my experience with it. And I completely relate with you to that part. I'm sure a lot of Asian households are like that. But, sadly, I kind of lost that part and I kind of regret it because when I go back to China, I look like an American. But if I'm here, I look like a Chinese woman. So
that's exactly what I experienced when I went back to the Philippines for the first time.
Yeah.
They clocked me. They knew I was American. Cool. I sounded like a Valley girl, even though I'm not from the South. I was from SoCal. It's funny. I just wanted to fit in. Growing up, my Lola would scrub my skin with skin whitening products. I thought that was normal. She wanted me to look whiter. And that was really hard to reconcile because, again, that's within my own community and someone that I loved and trusted. But she only knew what she knew for her survival. And that was, if you act white, they will leave you alone. If you are still brown, but you're lighter, that means you're from a higher class. You're not working in the field. She was 94, almost 94 when she passed away. She had a 6th grade education, but she was still a very savvy businesswoman. Became a seamstress and a hairdresser. Our immigrant parents and our ancestors and our relatives, like, they only know what they knew. And I'm not trying to excuse like them trying to dump their dreams on us and everything like that. But what you said was very real, all three of you. And the fact that you're not even 18 and you have such a strong sense of self. Is so powerful as BIPOC women, especially in this day of social media. Like when I was your age, social media was just blossoming. Like in order to have a Facebook account, you had to have a college email address, right? It's hard. I'm in an interracial marriage. Do you know 60 years ago, my marriage would have been illegal? Loving versus Virginia. Look it up. I celebrate Loving Day every year because I know that if we didn't have trailblazers like that who believed in, you know, what it is to be a family, right? The American family, your story about your observation. There was a saying, keeping up with the Joneses. My parents went into lots of great debt, credit card debt, to try to keep up with our neighbors. This is American dream of hustle culture. I have no job right now. So when you have no job, you have a lot of time to reflect. But I know I said that lightheartedly because that's my defense mechanism, joking. But I've had a lot of time to reflect about, wow, it must have been really hard for my parents. My mom got married at 27, which is really old for a Filipino. They left the Philippines because of martial law. Who says, I'm going to join the U.S. Army? Everyone thinks that my dad joined. It was my mom. Did 6 weeks of boot camp in Texas. Came back to the Philippines, married my dad. Got stationed in Honolulu, Hawaii. But my father was also an overseas Filipino worker. Living abroad in Saudi Arabia. Separated from my mother. That's the other thing we don't talk about. Migrant families, the diaspora, separation, sacrifices. So for us as first gen or second gen Americans is really hard because I think about the sacrifices they made and I don't know if I have enough bravery to do the same. So when you're talking about wanting to reclaim your culture and your identity, I'm so proud that you guys have recognized that now, because recognizing it when you're 30, not great. But that's why I learned how to make lumpia, or Filipino egg roll. I learned all these other dishes, and I'm still learning, because it's important that if I have an opportunity to create a family with my husband, my partner, he is Polish Irish, and his Nana, her maiden name was Zajuski, and she taught my husband how to make pierogies, which is a potato dumpling, a Polish potato dumpling from scratch. And I learned it too. And he learned from me Filipino dishes, kare-kare, Filipino peanut butter based stew, because it's important to us that when we have a family, if we're blessed to have a family, because we don't know. I'm 40. It's the sad thing about, waiting until later in life. But that's another story for another day. Is this, whatever the family it is that I create with my husband, my partner, it's going to include both of our identities. Being Polish and Irish, I also learned how to make corned beef.
Mhm.
And also being Filipino. You don't have to choose. You can be both. Both can exist. But also, the shame around it is really hard. There's a saying in Tagalog, utang ng loob, which means debt of gratitude. If your parents say that you need to do something because they sacrificed all these things, you say yes to them. That debt of gratitude, though, is really toxic because it's like, what? You're my parents and you provided what? The basics of like shelter and food? But yet I have to make choices of going to this college and dress this certain way, etc., because you provided for me, which is a basic human right. Okay. But there's also another saying, walang hiya, which means without shame. So I have these Filipino butterfly sleeves. It's a traditional cultural garment. And usually it doesn't have words on it. It's actually just flowers. But in solidarity and activism and a suck it to the patriarchy, sorry, I didn't say any swear words, I'm just saying. Because it's a very male-dominated culture in the Philippines. I have those two phrases on the two sleeves. It's very unusual. Walang hiya and utang ng loob, which is actually a reclamation of, hey, I'm going to live my life the way I want to without shame. Because if you really loved and cared about me, you would hope that your actions and your decisions helped me to have liberation and freedom to have choice and live the life that you may have wanted, but are now going to give to another generation. And that's a gift. And it shouldn't be with shame, and it shouldn't be with a debt.
Yeah, that was just very powerful. I obviously these experiences are very unique to you, and I take some part of inspiration as I sometimes have experienced what have you experienced like the idea of you're in debt. And I sometimes I feel a little bit bad that I'm not exactly the stereotypical Chinese kid that my mom was always in a way kind of looking for. I mean, she never said it to me, and I know she like truly loves me for who I am, but I'm not that stereotype, and I sometimes do compare myself to other Chinese American kids at my school. I'm kind of like, why am I not like this? I mean, I'm horrible at math, like,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I am awful
I'm
at math.
awful at math, like, and it's just sometimes I'm just kind of like, why am I like that? But now after hearing your story, it's not the why, it's just kind of like it's who I've developed into, the community and the people I surround myself with, the experiences that I've like that's happened to me that I've experienced, the different like opportunities that have come by me has really really shaped me as a person I am today. I'm much more of like a leader and more of like an advocator rather than someone that is just for the books, for the academics. And I feel that that is definitely like shifted my mindset into something of more like a why am I like this, but more of like I'm proud of like who I am. And I just really appreciate you talking about that because that definitely relates to me. I'm sure it relates to Avani and Levi. It's just such like a bubble that we kind of trap ourselves into as a second gen and like also as like BIPOC women as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. Like, I feel like growing up, there are crazy standards for like South Asian households, and for the longest time I was trying to like fill that standard, because like nobody in my family has even reached beyond high school, you know what I mean? And I was thinking the same thing you were talking about, like this burden that's kind of placed on you and this sort of like guilt, you know what I mean? Because your parents have sacrificed and worked so hard. But also, we got to consider our own mental health, Levi, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that the guilt you guys are talking about is really real, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that's something that can relate to every single person, and especially like, people of color. And I think that I also feel that like I don't know, it's kind of weird being in debt with your own family, and I think that it's also weird that, like feeling like shelter and like food and and having like just like basic necessities is something that we have to feel that we owe more to with our parents. And yeah, I think that way is, and I think that what you said is really powerful, and I never really thought about it in that way.
Yeah.
I'm the black sheep of my family. My sister and my brother, my sister and I are considered Irish twins. We're 11 months apart, which means when you're Irish twins, it's like 11 to 12 months, less than a year. And my brother and I are 4 years apart to the day. I'm the eldest of 3 kids. And they were upset with me because I kept fighting that I didn't want to become, like, I didn't become a lawyer, but I ended up using my degree really well. Obviously, I'm in the school board, but I'm working public policy. That works too. But my siblings were like, why are you fighting mom and dad? You need to be a lawyer. We became nurses. And I said, that's fine. But I really want to encourage you that if you want to become nurses, it's because you want to become nurses. I remember giving student tours at Dominican. And I said, my job as a student tour guide is not to convince you to go to Dominican. My job today is to give you an amazing tour, to give you a glimpse of what it would be like to be a student here. But you have your own path of where you feel like you'll be home for 4 years, and you study something that you love, and the job will come, right? As I say this as an unemployed person, but I believe it still. Mm-hmm. But I digress. So my sister and my brother became nurses. My brother became a certified nursing assistant, and my sister became a licensed vocational nurse. Are they still nurses today? No, they are not. And I share that not because that they are failures. They're not. They were really excellent nurses. They weren't in love with it because that's not what they really wanted to do. Fortunately, though, they pivoted and now they're doing something that they both love. But that's a delay. But the fact that the 3 of you know, at least you feel like you know, or trying to proudly advocate for yourselves as strong, independent BIPOC women, that's powerful, especially in a community like Marin. And I say that because I'm not mincing words. Take a look at our local bodies of power. If we're really representative of who lives in Marin, how come we only have one Hispanic or on our San Rafael City Council? Our San Rafael City Council is the county seat, 150 years old, but we only had a female mayor in 2020. We've only had less than 10 women serve on the San Rafael City Council. Our first person of color was someone who was Filipino in 2011. Like, let's ask these questions. But then there are a lot of barriers for people to run. Okay, a woman is usually asked about maybe like 7 times to run for office before they say yes, right? Now let's talk about women of color. And there are barriers. It takes money to run. Right? I'm a renter. I tell people I got married for economic reasons. You know, I needed a, sorry, my husband is like, what are you telling these young people? But these are very real things. So there are a lot of barriers already. So to be the first Filipina elected in San Rafael, in any San Rafael seat, is an honor. And I hope I am not the last. I always lead that I'm Filipina first. And yes, Asian Pacific Islander. But I digress. I think it's important to take back who we are, and you wanting to really own that with your Mandarin and your Cantonese and all of these other pieces. And being South Asian is super hard, and really, really navigating and really transforming what it means to be South Asian. Right? And you speaking up volumes, even though it doesn't feel natural to be a public speaker and to share your testimonial, you did it in front of hundreds of us.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You 3 are amazing. The fact that you know so much sense of self, I wish I had that when I was your age. But I'm making sure now that if I need help, I get the help, and that I shouldn't be ashamed of it, because I was ashamed for so long to just be myself. And I never really embraced that until maybe about 10 years ago, if I'm being honest.
That is just like I'm so glad we were having this conversation, because there are so many BIPOC women who are youth, they just feel like they can't even talk about their mental health because they have so many responsibilities, and they don't even feel like they fit in, first of all. So like, how are they going to speak up and get the help that they need? Unfortunately, because our show is coming to an end, I just want to give this space to you to give like one last piece of like advice to maybe our viewers at home. What advice would you give to our BIPOC youth, especially like our women who are balancing like all of these different things, this guilt from their family, but also wanting to pursue their own aspirations, get more involved in their community, but also dealing with this feeling of kind of self-sabotage? What would you say to that?
Such a heavy last question. Well, one, I just want to end in a space of gratitude for creating this space for this topic. Doesn't just touch BIPOC women. I am pretty sure it will transcend to other folks who feel that they had to change themselves in order to fit in, belong, and be seen. So that's powerful. So thank you for creating this space, and to those who are supporting this show in general. My piece of advice is that being yourself is not selfish. And I don't know how much that you have to surround yourself with other people that can... Your friends help to not tell you what you want to hear. Good friends, good supporters would be mirrors to help reflect who you are. And I know that's a lot of sayings, but when you're in this space of trying to support your mental health, you lean into a lot of affirmations, but I don't want fake affirmations. It's okay to have 5 really good people in your life that are there then show up for the good stuff and the bad stuff. That's precious. But also recognizing that as you grow and you change, sometimes those same 5 people might not be the same from 5 years from now. So there's also grief and loss. Don't feel like you have to hang on to something in order to feel like yourself. Being yourself is not selfish, but also knowing that there's going to be several evolutions of yourself in this lifetime if you're lucky. And it's important to be proud of every evolution, even if it feels like you're failing. If I'm failing, that's okay. That means I'm trying. But as long as I'm failing forward, that's progress.
I think we got this, guys.
Wow.
We got this. Wow. Thank you for tuning in to Tay Radio, where we dive deep into stories, culture, and community. Thank you to our amazing guests. Very emotional conversations, but they needed to happen, If you like today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can follow us on social media at Tay Radio Marin for updates and more ways to stay connected. And listen to us on Spotify, and you can also watch full episodes on YouTube at Tay Radio Marin. And for more resources or to get involved, you can visit our website at the Multicultural Center of Marin. And we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.